Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. And tonight, I have a packed show for you this evening. And at the tail end of the show, I have a big announcement and for the future of the program. So, first of all, welcome. Thank you all for coming. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm going to be running around. Let's hit all of the socials here. Oh, wow. Rumble is like really behind. At least my version of it is really behind. I'm sorry about that. Where is it? Has it come up? There it is. Okay. Yeah, boy. Wow. It's like really, really, really behind. Anyway, all right. So let me just say that I want to thank all of you guys for being here. This is fantastic. Let me see who I have. I got to run over to, the Rumble. Let's see. I see Bonnie, Coco Dominki, Amy Jean Viner, Daybreak, Sabo OH, Buddy Weiser, of course, can't miss him. Let's see who else. We have Colleen Birmingham, or Burning. Is it Burning or Birming? I'm thinking it's Burning. Let's see who else. I saw Outlaw Dogs earlier. And let's see, who else did I see? Do I see anybody else in that? I see Bam. Bam's there. Bam came in early and said hello. So I've got just a whole bunch of a host of people over. Thank you very much. If I missed you, I apologize. And then over here on Facebook, I see Becky, my Australian contingent. And then I also see Tommy over on Facebook. Tommy actually shows up in both places because apparently last week Facebook decided that I was playing some kind of music and I got copyrighted out the yin yang. I mean, the report that came in was like every 2 or 3 or 4 minutes they claimed that I had a copyright that I was playing music, somebody's, UMG or whatever. It was, anyway. It was absolutely horrible. I lodged an appeal for it. I don't even know if the video shows up anymore, but I lodged an appeal for it and, I haven't heard anything back. And I told him, I was like, the only music that I play is all Creative Commons, public domain licensing, blah, blah, blah stuff. Anyway, so they went ahead and they just, anyway, they probably, I guess that's possible. Tommy over on Facebook says, you think they got you for your Valentine's Day thing and didn't get around to smacking you till last week. It's possible, I suppose. Realistically, they did mute that section of my Valentine's Day special where I sang to my lovely wife. But anyway, so we'll see how it goes this week. So we have had a bunch of stuff, but first I got to get, of course, the things out of the way. Number one being that, of course, today is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And I am drinking the Four Roses bourbon tonight. And it is in my requisite True Grit Roots Network Rocks Tumbler. Rocks glass, rocks tumbler. Of course, my whiskey stones are there in the bottom. So Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Now let's go ahead. Since I'm talking about TGRN, I might as well just go ahead and do. Oh, wait. Hold on. Before I do that, got to get this. For those of you who are in the mood, please stand, remove your hats, and let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So now let's go ahead and get to tonight's primary sponsor, which of course is True Grit Roots Network, TGRN.net. Folks, we had a big announcement that came out just this week. I am so excited to tell you. If you listen to the Audacity app, that is AUDACY, Audacity app. If you use the Audacity app, you can find True Grit Roots Network on Audacity. And so essentially what's going on here is our organization that we partner with, Live 365, has partnered with Audacity, and Audacity went ahead and they are allowing all of Live 365 stations over there, so you can listen to Audacity. And Audacity, of course, expands across all kinds of platforms. You can listen on PC, you can listen on your mobile phone, you can of course listen on Roku and televisions and things like that through Audacity. So if you use Audacity for your regular digital radio, please go ahead and look for the Audacity there. And you can pick up all of our wonderful daily programming, Monday through Friday daily programming of the Morning Blues, which is our, top of the morning, first thing in there. The Morning Blues Cafe, you can come in and listen to get your morning started. And then, of course, there's always the Blue Plate Special at noon Central Time, which gives you an hour with one of our wonderful on-air personalities every single weekday to get you through your weekday. It is a special order up for each one of our on-air, from many of our on-air personalities for that. And then, of course, overnight, we have the Night Train, which is extended long sets of music and songs that you may not hear on your regular radio programming because of the fact that they generally are just too long to play. And so what they do, our Night Train conductor does is he plays the long sets overnight. Check out those three programs along with all of our programming from our great, fantastic on-air personalities over at tgrn.net. And of course, as I just said, on the Odyssey app. And so this is fantastic news for TGRN. Check us out at tgrn.net. And of course, TGRN, True Grit Roots Network with TGRN Blues, is out of Austin, Texas. And I, of course, am part owner in that particular endeavor. All right. So you may notice the background. A little bit of a kicker here for later on tonight. But first, we need to discuss something that just happened right prior to me coming out coming onto the air. And this is going to be big. And the reason why this is big for, Trump in particular, but also for 2024, because of the fact that 2024, I'm going to tell you, there is so much stuff going on right now. I can't even imagine. The last month and a half, there's been so many things that I just cannot keep up with all of the stuff that is happening. So I try to pick stories and articles and things like that that you may not know about from the other broadcasters that are in this space. But this came out, and this is fantastic. I'm just going to tell you, this is fantastic. Fantastical in the sense that it is a blow to Mr. Smith. So the Supreme Court has decided to take up Trump's immunity appeal. Now, for those of you that don't recall, there is questions as to whether or not in Trump's January 6th case that is being tried by Jack Smith, whether or not he has presidential immunity from this because of the fact that he was president at the time. And so there's questions with regards to his immunity in terms of the actions that he took on January 6th as to whether or not he was doing things in terms of a presidential order or whatever, because he was president, that kind of thing. There was some question on it. Now, if it falls the way that, honestly, I mean, presidents really do need some form of immunity from prosecution when they are performing presidential duties. And so if it falls to that direction, then what we end up with is the fact that Trump can't be tried. Jack Smith's case goes away from the January 6th piece. And, we end up with Trump again in 2024. So even though 2023, and let's be honest, 2023, especially toward the end, it was starting to look a little abysmal for us. A lot of things were going, the 91 indictments, there was a lot of stuff in the news, so on and so forth. But what has occurred here is that the Supreme Court has decided to take up the Trump immunity appeal. Now, this does not necessarily mean that we are going to win in this particular case. There's also not even much in the way of indication as to, just by this action, indication as to which way the Supreme Court is actually going to go. But the fact that they decided to hear it is the big case. And so this is incredible from the idea of, and also from the idea of some of the constitutionalists, of which I am one. We need to figure out whether or not a president actually does have immunity, because if they don't, what I don't think a lot of these leftists who are out there thinking that this is going to be this huge, massive deal, I don't think a lot of these leftists out there realize that we could go after Obama, for example, and even Biden, and any other president who is still alive that could have done something. For an example, when Obama killed that family in Afghanistan with the drone strike. Now, if presidents don't have immunity, murder in America has no statute of limitations. So this is a huge deal, huge deal. And the president, of course, orders things like SEAL Team 6 and so on and so forth, to go around and do things to protect the country. So this is a huge deal. This is a huge deal. Also, this whole thing about the witness, I talked about it in a last program or the program before, where this witness was being arrested and has been indicted on for lying on the FD 1023 form and so on and so forth. And one of the things that the leftists have been going on and on and on about with this is the fact that must mean that, the entire impeachment case is a fraud. And as I explained to you before on this program, multiple times. That does nothing from the outside of the fact that it does make the corroborating evidence that the 1023 brought and the corroborating information a little suspect, but there's plenty of other things that are going on that are all part of this in exact same setup. And so this article came out, obviously, with today, Hunter Biden testifying. And he, as per usual or as expected, he pretty much told everybody that, no, my father was not involved in my business dealings. Well, here's the thing with this entire thing, and I might as well bring this up because this was on the Epoch Times. Here's the entire thing. If Hunter Biden acted alone, then the question is going to be, why is he not being brought up on FARA charges? Why are you avoiding this? Because, how is it that he's avoiding prosecution for FARA violations? Because he clearly, if his dad was not involved, let's just go off of that assumption. We know that's not the case, but let's go off the assumption that his dad was not involved. Then that means that Hunter Biden bears the brunt for all of the FARA violations and everything else, from that standpoint. Now, that being said, again, as expected, Hunter Biden basically said behind closed doors, he read a statement, and as a part of his statement, he said, and I quote, "I am here today to provide the committees with one uncontestable fact that should end the false premise of this inquiry. I did not involve my father in my business." Okay, so that was obtained by the Associated Press, by the way. And he continued on here in this statement, and he says, "For more than a year, your committees have hunted me in your partisan political pursuit of my dad. You have trafficked in innuendo, distortion, and sensationalism, all the while ignoring the clear and convincing evidence staring you in the face. You do not have evidence to support the baseless and MAGA-motivated conspiracies about my father because there isn't any." There isn't any. No evidence? Like bank statements? Like emails and texts from you directly? There's no evidence of wrongdoing. Yeah, right. Well, there also is his buddy, Tony Bobulinski. Tony Bobulinski. I talked to you about him last episode. Tony Bobulinski is probably the most glossed over person in this entire thing, who has laid out the entire process, everything dealing with the Chinese and the CEFC and the Rosemont Seneca Partners relationships, and so on and so forth. And now we have this. There's a new statement. And now I mentioned Jason Galanis yesterday, or last episode. Sorry, not yesterday, but last episode. And there's some new statements. Whoops. There's some new statements. Damn it. There we go. There's some new statements that have came out from Jason Galanis, who was closely involved with apparently an effort to combine the Biden family name with foreign investors' capital, which is exactly the problem that we have with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and everything else. He told congressional investigators that the Biden brand was central to their plans. And then, of course, also talked about Joe Biden's involvement with this. So now we have a new witness that has stepped forward. We don't have just Tony Bobulinski and Devin Archer. We now have Jason Galanis as well, who is, and all of these people have basically corroborated evidence across the board that the Biden family has done and dealt with the Biden name and their influence in Washington, let's just face it, the Biden family name has no other value other than the influence that the Bidens can pull when Democrats are in charge in Washington. So this is, again, another nail in the Biden coffin. Now, let's be honest, again, Biden is probably not going to get indicted. In fact, or impeached. I mean, we're on the tail end of 2024, but the key here, as I've said before, the key in all of this has nothing to do with whether or not Biden actually gets impeached. It has everything to do with whether or not people start believing that the Bidens are corrupt. And they are. And people are starting to believe it. In fact, there's polls out that are showing that over half of the polls, the people polled, there we go, half of the people polled are believing this. It's something like 52% of the people who were polled and asked the question, do you believe that Joe Biden is and Hunter Biden engaged in criminal behavior? They all say yes. They all say yes. And so this, I mean, Hunter, you can deny it all you want. The amount of evidence that is being stacked up right now by Jim Jordan and James Comer in the investigation is starting to get monumental, momentous, mountainous, however you want to call it. So Hunter can sit on the stand, and we already know that he lies. He lied in order to get a gun. So anyway, so there we go. So this is coming. This is coming. And yeah, again, I'm not all that concerned realistically as to whether or not Joe Biden gets impeached, because let's be honest with everyone out there, the chances that he is going to get impeached under the current administration and the current Congress is pretty slim. And even if he does get impeached, even if it does split along party lines and he does get impeached, we'll be in the same situation that Trump was in, where he gets impeached and then he goes and doesn't get removed. And the removal is the key. The removal is the key. All right. Now, let me scoot over here. Okay, so we also know Michigan happened last night. And here's the thing about Michigan, okay? It's not the win by Trump, although, you know, Haley has reportedly spent $76 million in the last 5 primary states just to lose. Hey, you know, if you're backing her and she's losing, well, you know, money thrown away, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're using it on their taxes to like freaking write it off or something. But anyway, she is burning through money like crazy and she is not getting anywhere. Now, that being said, Michigan, of course, happened. And when you're running against nobody, Biden, of course, garnered 80% of the vote. Okay. 80% of the vote. And, oh, I just got told, he kicked me off Facebook again. Great. Oh my gosh. Anyway. All right. Obviously I'm getting targeted. They're really not going to like later, but anyway, so, you know, he garnered 80% of the vote, which honestly, 80% of the vote realistically, is definitely, you know, not that hard to achieve when you're running against literally nobody. Okay. But here's the thing. What happened in Michigan, and again, Trump's runaway victory over Haley is not the story. What is the story is the fact that over 100,000 people, Michigan voters, chose the word uncommitted over Joe Biden in the Democrat Party. Do you remember when Haley in Nevada lost to not anyone on the ballot or something along those lines? This is bad. So for those of you that don't know, the majority of it came out of an area that is predominantly of Muslim religion. And of course, they're unhappy with Biden based on the war that Israel is waging in Gaza. And so realistically here, this isn't necessarily surprising because they're not happy with Joe Biden, but they're trying to push him essentially more left. And more left, of course, would be, even worse for the country than he is right now. And Ben Shapiro today, I was listening to his podcast and he was talking about on the Ben Shapiro show. And he basically said, this is really odd in terms of a 2024 election. We have one candidate who is on the right, who is more moderate than the left candidate or the Democrat candidate, because the Democrat candidate is actually more left than anything else. Yeah. But anyway, so over 100,000 Michigan voters chose uncommitted or none of the above, whatever it was, in the Democrat primary. And this has got the White House freaked. Okay. According to, if you look here in the Washington Beacon, they are in a panic mode over the Michigan ballot protest against Biden. Now, let's be honest here. What would be the thing that would potentially bring these voters back? Well, obviously, him taking a stronger stance against Israel in the Gaza war. And the problem with that, of course, is that the overwhelming majority of Americans outside of these people, they are actually for Israel in that war. And so, yeah, it realistically, this whole entire situation, I mean, Joe Biden just seems to, again, here's the old adage from Obama. Obama said, never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. And here it is. He is effing up his reelection big time because of all the things that he's doing over. Now, according to a Democrat close to Biden, this is from the Washington Beacon piece, said that of the president and his reelection campaign team, according to Politico, said, quote, they are freaking out about the uncommitted vote. So there's a campaign called Listen to Michigan that has been at the forefront of this movement to pull Biden or pull votes from Biden in Michigan. Michigan voters are sending Biden a clear message in the February 27th Democratic primary that he can count us out, the campaign said on its website. We are filling out the uncommitted bubble because we strongly reject Biden's funding war and genocide in Gaza. Layla Elabed, the campaign manager of Listen to Michigan, told the New York Times that she hopes shunning Biden in the primary would make him feel more at risk of losing Michigan in the general election and shift his policy to support a ceasefire, at least. Okay. Now, this is a bit of a bit of a challenge for Joe because, I mean, let's just face it. Joe's already been pissing off a lot of people. He's pissed off a lot of Americans with regards to the immigration issue that we have, which, by the way, still haven't heard anything different over the fact that he is still mulling over announcing an executive order at the State of the Union address coming up that would essentially help stem the flow of illegal immigration. Yeah, that's all this time he's been saying he's needed new laws. He's been telling everybody that Congress needs to give him the tools and the money to be able to do it. And here he is talking about potentially putting in an executive order on that. But he also has irritated other folks as well over the wonderful Bidenomics that we have, our economic situation. This is just horrible, horrible, horrible. Okay. And, no matter what he does to try and spin the whole Bidenomics theme set, he keeps getting shot down every single time by people like me. I do it as often as I can whenever I'm on social media and things like that. But there's another group of people that Biden has continually counted on outside of the people of color, outside of the white suburbanites in terms of the women in particular. He has been attempting for many years by putting people like the likes of Chris Mowry and a couple of other folks on social media that have been like placing TikTok videos and going on X and talking about how Gen Z and under is going to be voting for Biden. Well, guess what? He's now starting to lose that vote as well. According to the Post-Millennial here, young voters 18 to 34 are moving to Trump over Biden. And here's the thing, is that this is a poll that was actually done in a left-wing newspaper called Axios. Now, the contest, let's be honest here, the contest between the two is remaining tight. However, there is a slight majority going toward Trump in that 18 to 34 year bracket. The poll was recently conducted by Axios and Generation Lab, and they have revealed that there is a small gap among young voters. According to the poll, 52% of respondents said that they would vote for the current president if the election were held today, compared to 48% for his predecessor. Well, when only those who said they were definitely going to vote in November, okay, Biden's support rose to 59%. But let's see, the vast majority of those surveyed said the economy was their number one issue. And after 4 years of Bidenomics, it appears that as though perhaps young people haven't seen the improvements in affordability that they were that they had hoped. So, yeah. According to a New York Times Siena survey conducted in December, for example, 49% of registered voters 18 to 29 said that they would vote for Trump, while just 43% said that Biden was their guy. In another issue where where young voters appeared to side against Biden was, again, the handling of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Nearly 50% of the respondents said that they believe Trump would do a better job, compared to just 30% who said the same of Biden. And a full 72% said that they disapproved of his handling of the situation so far, with 45% saying he's too supportive of Israel. So this is kind of a reflection, honestly, these kinds of polls are a reflection of the leftist leaning of our educational system, of course. But the point is that this is going to be yet another thing that Biden is going to have to overcome, because Trump is coming on strong in some of these groups. And in fact, according to this Emerson College polling and The Hill, now for those of you that don't remember, The Hill is another left-wing outlet. I mean, let's be honest with you. What mainstream media is not leftist leaning? But according to this article in the Washington Examiner, there was a poll done in of Emerson College and The Hill, and Wisconsin in particular, which Biden won by a single percentage point in 2020 after Trump took it in 2016 to seal his surprise victory over Hillary Clinton. The Republican, who is Trump, of course, is leading Joe Biden by 3 points, 45 to 42%. And you can see here on this graph, you can see November of 2023, it was a 43-44 split. In January of 24, when they retook the poll, it was a 45-44 split. And now we're in February, and we're looking at a 42-45 split. Now, here's the thing. When you look at this, and of course the undecideds between November and January were the biggest change, because obviously 44% was the same for Trump, but then the undecideds went and moved from being undecided over to Biden, and then they are starting to scoot back again. So here's the thing. As I've always said, whenever you deal with these things, you have the Trump camp, and those Trump folks, they will always vote Trump. And then you have the Biden camp, and those folks will always vote Biden. Whether they hate Trump or they're delusional, whatever it is, they will always vote Biden. But it's the undecideds that are really going to make the difference here. And we're starting to see trends, not necessarily all the time, but we're starting to see trends that that the undecideds are leaning more toward Trump. And here is some other matchups in other swing states. Nevada, they have Trump up +10. North Carolina, Trump +9. Georgia, Trump +9. Arizona, Trump +6. Pennsylvania, Trump +5. Wisconsin, Trump +4. And Michigan, Trump +3. Now, those are the 7 swing states that are out there. This is going to be a very interesting year. Very interesting year. All right. So one of the things that Biden has been taking a lot of hits on, of course, is this whole immigration policy and allowing people to just come in and so on and so forth. And here's the thing. And I got to get a little serious here for a second, because here's the thing. We have several high-profile violent crimes that have occurred here within the last week. And they have all been attributed to illegal aliens who have crossed the border. Some had been arrested before. Some had crossed the border again, twice, 2, 3, 4 times, whatever the case. And yeah, we're starting to see the impacts outside of just the economic impacts and the impacts in the sanctuary cities, where housing and food and so on and so forth is all being taken up, and low income stuff all being taken up by these illegal aliens. Okay. But now we have another reason to be seriously afraid and concerned with everything that is going on. This article came out in Hot Air. Venezuela's homicide rate is now the lowest in 22 years. And the suggestion is that the gangs are migrating here. Now, I am not one to necessarily look at correlation does not necessarily equal causation. Okay, I want to be clear about that. However, it is sort of interesting how now we have essentially a bunch of Venezuelans who have come here and are being accused of doing violent crime here in the United States. And yeah, so some of these people that are out here, I mean, we have the Venezuelan who beat Laken Riley, bludgeoned her to death. We also, I saw an article, and I didn't bring it up, but I saw an article where a person was being another illegal alien was being arrested for molesting, I believe it was, a 2-year-old. And then there was another one where they had raped a 14-year-old by knife point. These are all illegal aliens to our country, folks. And if this, assuming that this is actually even true and correct about Venezuela's homicide, we have a lot of Venezuelans that have crossed the border. We also have, you know, obviously, Chinese immigrants. Well, we call them immigrants, but they're all of young male, you know, military aged men. Talked about that on the program last time. We have had, and I've played videos of Iraqis coming across and Iranians coming across and all kinds of outside illegal aliens that have crossed our southern border and are here at the behest of the Biden administration. So, Democrats in the piece here, Democrats keep talking about Republicans pouncing or seizing on the crime wave sweeping the nation being caused by Democrat immigration policies. But even with all the cover that the mainstream media, Biden and Mayorkas have been doing, the reality has been sinking in that Democrats have invited not the world's best, but some of the worst. Yeah, this guy here, the picture on, if you're on the audio program, you can head on over to Rumble, to my Rumble channel and check it out. But this guy, Renzo Mendoza Montes, he's a 32-year-old illegal alien. I'm going to change the word, it's migrant in the text, or in the X post, from Venezuela, received one charge related to the sexual assault of a victim between the ages of 13 and 14. These people are not safe here. These people don't care about our laws. They don't care about our assimilation. They don't care about Americans. And this is a problem. This is a real big problem. Now, I have a meme that was a cartoon of the Venezuelan president who was bringing buses of people, and those people were coming from their jails and being sent to America on buses. Well, this could be an explanation as to the truth of that particular case. Folks, we have a serious problem here when it comes to things like this, a huge issue. You know, they talk about, you know, Trump stating over and over and over again, they talk about Trump stating that he's going to do mass deportation and how that's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, folks. That's not a bad thing. All right. And the reason being is because of the fact that we don't have the facilities. We don't have the money. We don't have because of Democrat policies when it comes to crime. And the thing about or as far as like the Democrat policies that have been put into place and the Soros DAs, that's what I'm trying to get for. The Soros DAs that are letting these people go. I mean, look at what happened with the migrants that attacked the New York City police officers. They got let go the next damn day. And they immediately took off and went to California. Who knows? People, we cannot continue. And even the founders, honestly, Mark Levin was talking about and read a piece of read a piece that was written by, I believe it was Thomas Jefferson, but Alexander Hamilton felt the same way. The founders didn't believe in unchecked immigration, even way back when this country was originally founded. They believed that what we needed was to bring the best and the brightest from other places around the world, but to not have just complete unchecked immigration. There had to be some standards. There had to be some controls put in place to make it so that we just didn't get overrun. Because what ends up happening, folks, is when you bring in a large population from another country, they no longer assimilate. What they do is they come and they attempt to convert America over to their country. And you see this in terms of places like in Michigan, where you have pockets of Somalians and others that are trying to implement things like Sharia law and have successfully put in Sharia patrols and things of that nature. They're not wanting to assimilate, folks. They're not wanting to assimilate. And this is the problem. When you have unchecked immigration, there is no desire, no incentive to adopt your home country, which when you read a lot of our immigration laws and read a lot of the pathways, the things that somebody has to do to go to citizenship. I mean, I talked about this before. America does not recognize dual citizenship. The purpose of becoming an American citizen is to throw off any sort of affiliation to any other country. And that's the idea, is to come here and be part of the melting pot. That's the point of immigration. For us to bring the best and the brightest who want to live here, who want to become a part of the culture here in America. And all of this illegal immigration or illegal aliens that we've had, there is absolutely no reason why they should not go home, especially the ones that are committing all these crimes that we've been just talking about. Those guys need to go away. All right. Let me go ahead and take a second before I move into the next part of the program to talk to you about getting a fantastic thing known as the U.S. Constitution. Yes, folks, this is the Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution from the Institute on the Constitution. You can get your copy by going to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. That's constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Check this thing out. It has an 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. The internal pages are tear and water resistant. And look at this binding. Oh my gosh, it goes all the way through the leather. Oh wow, that just made the camera go funky. But it goes all the way through the leather. It has a 100-year warranty against manufacturing defects and materials, workmanship, where if something happens with this thing, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. Go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online to get this book. It is fantastic. $19, folks. $19. That's it. It has, according to my rumblers, it has sexy rounded corners. Sexy rounded corners. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. And according to 3 Chevy, all of the amendments are using Roman numerals and they are in order, as well as my youngest whiskey warrior has verified that the content inside will pass a civics badge requirements for scouts. Go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and get yours today. It is fantastic. And of course, you can go and check out the rest of their books and materials and other information. I talk about them on Saturdays. You'll see them again. Just fantastic. All right, back to the show. So remember when the illustrious Hillary talked about the basket of deplorables? And do you remember when Obama talked about the middle of the country clinging to their Bible and to their guns? Yeah, well, guess what? It's back. That whole thought process on the left is back. And let me explain why. So, the newest thing out there is Christian nationalism. Not being Christian because, oh my gosh, being Christian is one thing, but being a Christian national, that's something else. So, according to this piece in the Federalist, and actually I saw the video as well, MSNBC had a political writer, Heidi Przyzbala. She appeared on All In with Chris Hayes on MSNBC to talk about the hysteria du jour, which of course is Christian nationalism. Now, what she said was that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with an extremist element of conservative Christians who were misrepresenting so-called natural law in their attempt to roll back abortion rights and other leftist policy preferences. She said, what makes Christian nationalists different was that they believe our rights as Americans, as all human beings, don't come from any earthly authority. Well, guess what? They don't. Oh my gosh, this person is such a jackass. Let me explain to you really quick. If you recall, there's this thing called the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, which, by the way, the left likes to say was a very secular person and didn't necessarily believe in God. But yet, for some damn reason, when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, he included the line that Joe Biden couldn't say, which was essentially that all of us are endowed by our Creator certain inalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, of course, from that document, which they do outline some other things in the document, came this wonderful thing right here, the Constitution of the United States that we just talked about. And the first 10 amendments, adopted and written, by the way, adopted and written right after, 1 year after the Constitution was adopted, they wrote the first 10 amendments and they called it the Bill of Rights. Now, I love to argue on social media outlets talking about the founders and the fact that they based this country on essentially Judeo-Christian values. They are common Christian values across the board. This nation was founded on what is to be believed as a religious nation. No more so or less than Israel was. We here in America came from the idea that all of our rights are bestowed upon us from God, and that we pass on the responsibility and some of those rights over to the government, because we know that government is a necessary evil in order to protect and secure those God-given rights. That's why this scares them. This scares them. And as a bunch of critics and everything else have already, let me go ahead and bring a piece up here. So this is a piece from the Federalist, which kind of calls her out on this. But a number of critics, me included, a bunch of other people included, have already pointed out that the whole point of Christian nationalism sounds identical to the case for American liberty offered in the Declaration of Independence. That the idea that man has inalienable universal rights, which also goes all the way back to ancient Greece, at least, according to the piece here. The entire American project is contingent upon accepting the notion that the state can't give or take away God-given freedoms. So you know what? If you want to call me a Christian nationalist for believing in a higher power and that higher power passes on certain rights to the individual that does not include anything from government, then call me a Christian nationalist. Okay? I believe, as all Americans do, I believe in the Declaration of Independence. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that I have been handed me certain rights by my Creator that government cannot take away, nor can they infringe upon. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, the right to self-defense, and so on and so forth. There's so many more that are out there. Now, these people who are out here, now let's just be clear about this. This isn't a matter of a lack of a civics education with these jackasses. This isn't a lack of understanding of our history. This is a literal attack on the idea of the Christian nation that we are. This is a direct attack on our founding fathers, our founding documents, our founding principles, our founding values. They are now clearly opening up, in my view, complete war in the public right now with regards to this. Not saying that they weren't doing it overtly in the past, but now they've got a label to it. So do not be surprised if you see this being trotted out by the leftist media and the leftist pundits and the leftist idiots in Congress and all of that, because obviously MAGA extremists didn't work out very well for these people. Now they have to turn it toward Christian nationalism. Now, this isn't an accident, as I said. This isn't an accident. The left truly believes that our rights are given to us by the government. They do not understand the founding principle and idea that government is a necessary evil and that it should be restrained by this document. That was the whole purpose of them writing the Constitution, was to restrain government, was to give it boundaries. And those boundaries have been totally overflown like a river over its banks during flood season. These people are doing this on purpose. They are doing this to further destroy our country, to further destroy what this nation was founded on and stands for. That's the point. So call me a Christian nationalist. I don't care. I believe in God, and I believe in this country and the fact that my rights have nothing to do with government at all. Now, one of the places where this kind of thought process runs rampant, obviously, is not only in the mainstream media, but also in a place called Hollyweird. And one of its largest Trump-hating jackasses. That's right. Meathead himself, Rob Reiner. Gosh, I love going on to his Twitter X feed and freaking going after him. But apparently, he's still, I thought he was washed up to nobody. I mean, shit, half the people don't even remember All in the Family with Meathead and Archie Bunker and Edith and all of that. More people are, most people don't remember. But here's the thing. This guy apparently created a far left documentary. A far left documentary on this. I can't even believe this bastard. I really don't. He's such a freaking anti-Trump. He supposedly, side note, he supposedly visited Epstein Island. So I guess this really doesn't surprise me any that he's doing this. But according to this article here, and I understand I don't talk a lot about entertainment because, shit, let's be honest with you. The entertainment industry is lost for the most part. But anyway, here he is. He created an anti-Trump God and Country documentary. And of course, he attacks exactly that, Christian nationalists, people who believe that our rights come from God or whatever higher creator you want to call. It's all up to you. And anyway, his film, while loved by critics, I mean, it picked up, I think, like what was it, on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. It picked up a 80 or 90%. 92% as a fresh rating by Rotten Tomatoes. But here's what Rotten Tomatoes says in terms of the official synopsis of the movie God and Country. God and Country looks at the implications of Christian nationalism and how it distorts not only our constitutional republic, but Christianity itself. Featuring prominent Christian thought leaders, God and Country asks the question, what happens when a faith built on love, sacrifice, and forgiveness grows political tentacles, conflating power, money, and belief into hypernationalism? Now he obviously this film now supposedly has earned like oodles of like free press and free publicity because of the press. Very little, of course, of the mainstream media are going to challenge this thesis. Okay. Rolling Stones, New York Times, Rolling Stone, not Rolling Stones, not the group, but Rolling Stone, New York Times, Washington Post, Newsweek, CNN, Axios, NPR, whatever. All right. But apparently all of this hype, oh my gosh, this is the part that's hilarious, but all of this hype, all of this wonderful, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, great, critics loving it, okay? For those of you that don't know, critics loving a movie means literally bupkis when it comes to things like the box office. Here's the thing. The film opened up, according to the article, the film opened up in 85 theaters nationwide on February 16th, okay? And it earned just $38,000 in its opening frame. Now, for those of you that may not remember, Sound of Freedom, which is about child sex trafficking in I can't remember the country that they were in, but the Jim Caviezel Sound of Freedom, which is on like Netflix now, I believe. Great movie. You should watch it. It doesn't have any like gory or really like anything. You should check it out. But, yeah, even that like was more of a hit than this freaking stupid ass thing. Left-leaning Wikipedia, according to the piece, dubbed those numbers disappointing. Far left Deadline.com desperately spun the results, trying to frame the poor numbers in the best light possible. Here's what they said. Overall gross was hampered by lower than average ticket prices in rural and suburban areas of the country, as well as limited screening schedules, Oscilloscope noted, saying God and Country has been met with an unbelievable amount of support from churches and religious organizations across the country that are keen to spread the film's message. We expect group sales and buyouts to surge as word of mouth takes hold and we head deeper into the 2024 general election. In our minds, this is more of an opening salvo than an opening weekend. Yeah, guess what? So the film apparently failed to crack even the top 36 box office slots on Box Office Mojo last weekend. In fact, the 36th film on that list, called Ennio, E-N-N-I-O, earned only $3,763 over the weekend. That means that either God and Country actually earned even less, or that the studio didn't bother to submit any numbers to the sites like Box Office Mojo or thenumbers.com. And by the way, Sound of Freedom was reportedly in Colombia, according to Outlaw Dogs. Thank you for fact checking me there. I do appreciate that. Anyway, this thing is basically a complete flop. Not much unlike Rob Reiner himself. The only thing that he is actually really known for, from as far as I can tell, because I can't even name one singular film that Rob Reiner that I've enjoyed that Rob Reiner may have even produced or directed or whatever the hell he did when he left after freaking, All in the Family died out. But anyway, apparently God and Country's current box office haul after 2 weeks being in theaters and the whole copious press coverage has only simply doubled to about 60,000. Yeah. There's not even enough people who are even given a score or a rating. Yeah. This guy is a complete freaking Trump-tard, lunatic, leftist failure. That's literally what he is. And whenever I get an opportunity on X to correct him in his leftist ravings, I do. He hasn't blocked me yet. So that's fine. Anyway, what a freaking nightmare. God. And these people, you know, they talk about us, about the right being in a cult, like, you know, worshiping Trump and doing all of these things for Trump. And keep in mind, I don't worship Trump, okay? I don't worship him. He is the better of the two choices that I am being provided. That's literally my stance on the entire thing, is that of the two choices, or in this case, now that RFK Jr. is running as an independent, the three choices that I have, they are all freaking bad except for Trump. Trump is the choice out of the three. Can't even count like Jill Stein or any of these other things. Well, guess what? There's some more people that are starting to wake up to some shit. Okay. There's some more people that are starting to wake up and starting to realize that, hey, we've been taken down a very bad road with this whole leftist, Democrat driven for 3.5 years or whatever. I mean, I don't even think we're at a half year yet. Check this piece out in the Daily Wire. A judge says that feds can't selectively prosecute right-wing rioters while ignoring Antifa. Now, what's surprising not about this headline, okay, is the fact that this is coming from a judge in California. California, folks. California. Okay. Oh, there it goes. It'll release. It'll release, guys. I see all of you saying froze. It'll release. Anyway, California, people. This is California. Yeah, I would agree with you, Judge Wild. I'd agree with you there. But anyway. So anyway, this is in California, folks. California, the left, one of the leftist, like freaking, what do I call this? Garden of Eden, I guess. This whole leftist Garden of Eden, people. God, this is just amazing. So apparently, here's what happened, just to cover it really quick. Robert Rundo and Robert Bowman attended a pro-Trump free speech rally in Berkeley on April 15th in 2017 as members of a group called Rise Against Movement, which is considered to be a far-right white nationalist group that engaged in violence against left-wing groups like Antifa. One of those groups was By Any Means Necessary, which would, of course, interrupt the right-wing events to shut them down and start fights. Now, the judge, who is Judge Cormac J. Carney of the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, he wrote on February 21st, Antifa and related far-left groups decided they needed to shut this down. They came prepared for violence, bringing weapons, including pepper spray, knives, fireworks, and homemade bombs. And they used those weapons, as well as their bodies, against Trump supporters and law enforcement. Now, prosecutors filed an emergency motion to appeal this decision. The Ninth Circuit Court had one of the right-wingers arrested the next day on February 22nd. Judge Carney objected to the fact that the federal prosecutors charged only the right-wing participants, even though the left-wing agitators performed identical conduct or worse at the same event, which the prosecutors' own evidence acknowledged. Carney wrote, no individuals associated with the left who engaged in anti-far-right speech and violently suppressed the protected speech of Trump supporters were charged with a federal crime for their part in starting riots at political events. That is textbook viewpoint discrimination. Most telling in this case is the government's silence as to why it never pursued a case against a single member of Antifa or related far-left groups with respect to their violent conduct at pro-Trump events. Defendants have established selective prosecution. There is no doubt that the government did not prosecute similarly situated individuals. Antifa and related far-left groups attended the same Trump rallies as the defendants with the expressly stated intent of shutting down, though through violence, if necessary, protected political speech. At the same time, Trump rallies that formed the basis for defendants' prosecution, members of Antifa and related far-left groups engaged in organized violence to stifle protected speech. So, yeah. So this guy, his order also included photographs of Antifa engaging in violence at the same protest. The word's getting out, people. The word is getting out. The change is coming. I don't know if you feel it, but I can tell you the change is coming. These people are starting to realize that what they elected and brought in is not the same choice here. Now, let's switch gears a little bit, really quickly. Let's switch gears, and I'm simply going to point out that, Judge Engoron, who put out that $450 or $350 million, whatever it was, bond on him, on his thing. I saw an article that talked about this, and I wasn't sure up until I got a trusted source who would go and verify. Well, I don't think Trump's going to have to worry about the money aspect, although, to be honest, whenever you're dealing with large millionaires like, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, so on and so forth, a lot of their net worth is tied up in certain assets. It's not something that you necessarily have in terms of liquid funds. And so there's a lot of misconceptions about the idea that these people just have, gold or silver or money sitting in some like big freaking vault in their homes or something like that, or in a bank somewhere, that they're able to just come up with it. In fact, if you recall, when Elon talked about buying X, he had to go and borrow the money against his shares and sell off some shares of his Tesla stock in order to complete the sale. And the reason being is because, again, even though these people are worth this kind of money, they don't necessarily have it just laying around to be able to just pay it off, which is part of the problem that we have with Trump going and appealing the whole process. Okay. With the whole Engoron deal and his large, very large, and as I spoke to you, against the Eighth Amendment, fine. But this came out in the Epoch Times. Trump stands to make billions in Truth Social merger deal. So he's going to take home roughly 3.5 billions in funds if he decides to take Truth Social public. On February 14th, the SEC, which is the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, approved the merger between Digital World Acquisition Corp. And Trump Media Technology Group. TMTG is the owner of the social media platform Truth Social. Once DWAC merges with TMTG, it can go public, with President Trump holding a whopping 78.75 million shares in the combined entity. DWAC shares were trading at around $45 as of 1:45 p.m. yesterday, okay, Eastern time, indicating that if President Trump, that his stake itself in that merger could be worth $3.5 billion. The amount can be a substantial cash infusion for the former president, who's been charged with the $355 million fine 2 weeks ago, which, by the way, adding in interest to today, or when this was written, which was yesterday, that final amount comes to about $464 million. Okay. So now that the SEC has given it a nod, the only thing that's left for the merger to be completed is shareholder approval. And shareholders, let's be honest, shareholders are going to approve it if it makes them money. That's what they're there for. That's the capitalist system. That's what they are there for, folks. Yeah. Anyway, it is facing some issues. DWAC said in a February 16th filing that the merger may be delayed by third parties, which again, here we are, political opponents of President Trump could seek to block the merger to prevent his potential financial gain. So again, he's being politically attacked for his position and for running for president. I mean, that's literally what they are saying here. Literally what they are saying. Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, I kind of hope it goes through, whatever that is, and I hope he gets the money. I hope he gets the cash, and he is able to go and freaking just, go on about his business. One last article before I go to my major announcement for tonight. Apparently, in the Federalist, the Congress, way back in, when the Congress passed the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023, which was a $1.7 trillion package, there's a court that has now come out and said, a federal court ruled on Tuesday that Congress actually lacked the constitutionally required quorum to pass this bill. Accordingly, at the same time, now that this has been, tried in court and they've ruled on this, the Biden administration cannot enforce any of the new mandates imposed on Texas by the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, which was part of the omnibus spending bill. And this happened on Tuesday. It left the ruling, of course, left untouched the $1.7 trillion in appropriations. And with most of the money already spent, there's no real remedy for these guys. So in other words, here we are, Democrats, once again, blatant disregard for the Constitution. So last month, this was ruled on Tuesday, but last month, federal judge James Hendricks held a bench trial in the state of Texas versus Department of Justice, which was a lawsuit brought by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton against the Biden administration. In the lawsuit, Paxton challenged the constitutionality of the Consolidation Appropriations Act of 2023 based upon the quorum clause of the U.S. Constitution found in Article 1, which states, each house shall be the judge of elections, returns, qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. Texas lawsuit argued that when the House voted on the final version of the omnibus spending bill on December 23rd, 2022, it lacked a quorum to conduct that business because only 201 of the members were physically present that day, which was less than the majority of the total number of voting House members, 435. So obviously this isn't Congress as a whole. This is attacking the House directly because they had less than. So 435 divided by 2 would be roughly 217. Anyway, so yeah, and this was under the control of Democrats. This was back when Speaker Nancy Pelosi was still there. They opted to apply a proxy voting rule that allowed absent representatives to have other members of the House cast votes on their behalf, which of course the Constitution does not specify. So, yeah, this is a problem. So, yeah, so the Consolidation Appropriations Act of 2023 passed with 225 yeas, 200 no nays, and 1 present. President Biden then signed the bill on December 29th in 2022, purportedly making it law. Well, on Tuesday, the Judge Hendricks, concluded that by including members who were indisputably absent in the quorum count, the act at issue passed in violation of the Constitution's quorum clause. However, the federal court also held that Texas only had standing or the right to sue to challenge the one portion of the act, which was specifically the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. The tide is turning, folks. The tide is turning. We're seeing little individual things like this that are causing or that are going to be causing some serious issues down the road. This is incredible, people. Incredible just to see that some of these justices and these jurists are starting to hit back and to see some of the things start to move forward with what's going on. All right. Here's the deal. Okay. I have a very large announcement to put forth about this show. As you all know, I've been attempting to make this show go essentially viral and turn it into a mainstream show. I've been attempting to bring it into the fold, and all of you guys, all of you that are watching right now, especially all of you Whiskey Warrior P1s who have been with me from the beginning, okay, and coming on with, expanding the growth. I mean, I'll admit, when I first started this, I didn't even know what I was doing. If you go back and take a look at all of these things that are out there, all of my videos, if you go all the way back, I had no idea what I was doing. I really didn't. Well, over time, this has evolved and developed into what you see today. But there's one big problem. Okay. Unfortunately, even though all of you have done some spectacular advertising, word of mouth for me, the show isn't really like expanding like I would like. And I got to thinking about it, and I started to realize that as much as I love the name Whiskey Musings, it doesn't reflect what the show actually talks about. And so I think in terms of a marketing perspective, putting a marketing hat on, okay, makes me think that I'm not leveraging marketing correctly, because somebody who sees Whiskey Musings, they might think, oh, that's not a political podcast, a news podcast, an informational podcast, unless it has something to do with whiskey, which, as you all know, other than drinking whiskey and mentioning a few of the bottles that I drink and the things that I like, I don't really talk about whiskey. Therefore, I came to a tough decision. As much as I love the idea of the Whiskey Musings broadcast, okay, I am rebranding. So as of tonight, this is the last Whiskey Musings broadcast under the Whiskey Musings name. I'm not going away. The format is staying pretty much the same. There are a couple of changes. There have been a couple of segments that I've been wanting to change, that I've been wanting to use, that I've been having some serious questions as to how to bring to the fold. One of them, of course, being my constitutional quarter. So tonight I am going to reveal to you the new branding of this show, which I think is going to be liked. This is an example. This background is an example of it. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and demonstrate to you the new and improved program.
A rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
That's right, folks. Starting Saturday's show, this will be rebranded as American Perspective with Rick Thomas. Now, the hat's not going anywhere. In fact, I've got more information on the hat in the coming week or so. We're getting closer to the point where you guys will be able to actually get a hold of the hats that I have. Nothing else is really changing other than some of the look. Okay? Other than some of the look. And again, the content isn't changing. It's slightly missing. Yes, I figured that question was going to come on. Coco Dominky asked, can we still call you Whiskey? Yes. Unfortunately, some things I'm not going to be able to change over because obviously they don't let me change my usernames. So some of my like social medias are still going to be the same. You guys can still call me Whiskey, that kind of stuff. But this is, and you still get to be Whiskey Warriors. That was the next question because I'm still going to be drinking whiskey on the show. Okay. And I know you guys are not thrilled with the change. And some people are just not going to like it. But trust me when I tell you that in order for me to get further exposure and take this mainstream, okay, this is, I think, the best move for the program. So from now on, this show will be called American Perspective with Rick Thomas. But nothing else other than some of the branding and icons and things like that are changing. I do have a new website that's going in. I still need to finish some things off. And other things like the Institute on the Constitution and the selling of the Constitution, all of that is staying the same, folks. I'm telling you, this is purely a marketing decision. Okay. And yeah, so all of this stuff, I'll be getting back to the Constitution. I'll be getting back to, some other things. I have a new segment that I've been trying to launch and just haven't been able to, called Highlighting America. This is going to happen. I don't believe that anybody will have to refollow. All this is going to do is just do a rebranding. I'm assuming that. Okay. But don't worry. And Love My Drones over on Rumble mentions American Perspective is the simple, sweet name. That's true, but somebody else has already done it. That's why I've had to put in my name in to make it different. So there is another podcast out there, although it's pretty much defunct, called American Perspective. So I'm trying to avoid any kind of a copyright infringement or any of that crap. Okay. And yes, it's the Constitution Quarter is what it is. Okay. So yes, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm heading for. And that's what this show will change to starting Saturday night. So for the last time for tonight. Okay. Well, for the last time, unless of course I bring something back in terms of maybe a segment called Whiskey Musings. We'll see, because there's still some play that I can play around with. But tonight, folks, for the last time, I'm going to sign off and say, and that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if this is your first time, just keep in mind that there will be a branding change. I'm hoping things are not going to change. I'm going to try and do it over the next couple of days. So don't be surprised if you see new logos and that kind of stuff. Okay. It's coming. But as of tonight, this is my final time. We'll see you on Saturday under the new label of American Perspective with Rick Thomas on Saturday. Hope to see you all there. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.